I think it was Winston Churchill who once said, "No success is final, no failure is fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Like, I think that in life it's very easy to become complacent after the big wins, and it's very easy to be demotivated after the big losses. So then it's like, how can you continue to progress in a certain direction without being caught up in the riptides of motivation and passion and, your emotional feelings about where your life is going? And I'd say that the spirit of persistence is the key, like that ability to just push forward regardless of the results. Like, if times are good, you need to still push to the max. Like, you cannot become complacent, you cannot become satisfied with the results. You have to always be pushing forward. And when times are bad, you have to move forward with the focus and the faith that, whatever you're doing, whatever you're working towards will recover, and that you'll be able to make this progress again. And that in the long term, across a long enough time span with enough hard, consistent effort, that you will end up in a better place, Like, I think that life is like a stock chart. Like, it doesn't necessarily go up and down in straightforward, like, simple to read paths. It's like, it's very unpredictable. It can, be an upward trend, but there are massive bumps along the way. You could be having a good year and a terrible week. And so I feel like at times we can be very emotionally sort of caustic, where we're always getting affected by these recent developments, and we start to lose sight of how far we've actually come in the long term. Like, I definitely feel like I can become upset with myself over little failures, when in the long term, I'm creating massive successes compared to where I've been at certain times in my life. And so that's to say that, being a persistent person is about removing yourself from this entire negative cycle of being satisfied or being, disappointed by results. Instead, you just focus on the effort itself, on doing the thing that you need to do to get to the place you want to be at. And it sounds easy. It sounds like pretty self-explanatory. It's like, oh yeah, sure. If I want to get somewhere, I have to do what that thing consists of. I have to put in the effort and be consistent about that and not worry about the results. But obviously, it's much harder than that. Like, even if, for example, you were making a lot of progress at something, like you were really like just killing it, like doing so well, everyone's very happy for you. Even if you had been at a place like that where obviously and clearly like the results are incredible and you're happy with them, very easily after just a week of setbacks, all of that feeling of, upward progress can erode in you. Something about the human mind, like, we're always in search of, I guess, comparison. We're always in search of some way to like diminish the progress we're making, because you never want to get complacent. Like, the mind is always just moving that goalpost. Like, for example, with YouTube, it might be like, at first, if I got a video and it got 100 views, like when I first started, 100 views is a lot, because that would have been better performing than all my other videos. But now if I had a video that didn't hit 100 views, it would somewhat upset me, even if the quality of that video is really good, because I'm like, well, that's my worst performing video. And so it's like, it's all relative. I'm sure if Mr. Beast got, 10 million views on a video, that'd be like a colossal failure for him. He'd probably like be depressed about it. But if the average YouTuber got 10 million views on a video, like, they would be ecstatic. And so I think for whatever reason, as humans, like, we very quickly adapt to like the positive improvements in our lives, and then it just becomes normal. And then anything that falls below that, baseline that we've suddenly set will just disappoint us more and more. It's like, I think the only real solution to this, the only thing I've found that's helped me, is looking back at the times in my life where the baseline was different, where having a day where I could wake up and I wasn't having, certain aspects of my health issues, like my acid reflux wasn't very bad. That'd be like an incredible day for me. Whereas now, I hardly ever have acid reflux, but my breathing is still sometimes kind of bad. And I'll wake up and I'll be having a bad day and thinking about my breathing, and I'm like upset about it. And then, the only thing that's really able to help me feel better is to stop and think about it and compare how I feel right now, even on the bad days, to how I felt back then on the good days. And I was like, my bad days now are better than my good days then. And somehow I still feel the same negative way about the bad days, but it's like the line has changed, like, for whatever reason, like I said, if life is a stock chart, there's an upward trend, but there's a downward momentum at this specific moment. And if that is the case for you, if you are in sort of a downward trend, I mean, if you are in sort of like a dip on the trend, then it can be very hard to, feel like you are making progress. It can be very hard to know where that line is going to toe. Like if you've fallen, by 20% in the market, you might feel like, it might just keep falling. But if you look at the market over a year, you're like, okay, well, it's up 200%. So maybe this little dip is just a temporary like failure. But like I said before, no success is final and no failure is fatal. It's like if you're just a persistent person, if you just keep pushing ahead and don't worry about the results, don't worry about, like what kind of progress or what kind of failures you're going through, just focusing on the long-term progress you're making and where you're trying to get and what it's going to require to get there. Like I think that persistence is sort of this kind of thing that you have to build up over time. It's definitely not the kind of thing where you can just decide to become a persistent person. Because persistence, unlike most like emotions or states of being, is built off of consistent failure. Like if you always face successes, if you never fail, then there's really no need for persistence because it's self-actualizing and self-motivating. Like if everything you tried you just always succeeded and life was easy, there wouldn't be a need for persistence. So persistence is key merely for the fact that it's necessary. It's like if we lived in a world where, there was no failure, then persistence wouldn't even be necessary. But because we live in a world where you're going to fail inevitably before you succeed, the only people who are able to really make it in the end are persistent individuals. It's like you could be the most talented person in the world. You could have so much potential that you could literally end world hunger by yourself. You could literally, send us to Mars. You could be the absolute greatest individual, of all of human history. But if you weren't a persistent individual, then the first failure you meet could set you back and remove you from that highest timeline of achieving those dreams and being that person and helping those people, which is really strange. I mean, it's not like anyone is born with a natural talent for persistence. It's just people, decide how they're going to respond to a certain event in their life. Like if it's like that classic saying, like some people, if they have a bad home life, they become bullies. They take it out on others. But some people, if they have a bad home life, become very kind and compassionate because they know what it's like to go through pain and struggling. It's like we have the ability to emotionally respond to a situation. That is, as I've said before, the last of human freedoms, as Viktor Frankl describes it in his book. And so I would say that, if we have the ability to respond and choose how we're going to conceptualize a situation and how we're going to move forward with our lives, then in any situation, you can just try to have the best mindset and try to find the way of moving forward. It's like there's no talent for that. There's no one who's born better or worse, and there's no one who's necessarily going through such an amount of suffering that they naturally become persistent. It's that you go through enough suffering, you go through enough negative experiences, and you, for whatever reason, decide that you're tired of continuing to lose. You're tired of continuing to be on that downward trend, and so you decide to just keep going. There's this manga series out of Japan called Berserk. The main character is called, Guts the Struggler. And the entire sort of series, like, he's just going through, like, setback after setback, like, trial and failure. And, of course, there's ups and downs along the way, but, like, consistently, his life is terrible, start to finish. But he's called, like, Guts the Struggler because he continues and moves forward anyway. And I think that there's something, sort of admirable about that. It's like Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill. It's like maybe you'll never reach the top of that mountain. Maybe there's an infinite amount of progress to be had, and none of it will ever fully satisfy you if that's what you're looking for. But there's something to be said about that sort of persistence, that if you have that, you can succeed in any endeavor with enough effort. And whether or not, there are things outside of your control, whether or not there are factors that are going to be difficult to overcome in your path to success, persistence is always going to be a very valuable resource. It's going to be something that can define whether or not you succeed at that specific thing. Like, it's really going to determine what your life looks like. Because I've known a lot of very talented people in my life. I've known a lot of people with incredible potential who faced failures early on in their life and sort of became like burnouts in a way, or sort of wasted a lot of their potential because they went through something so traumatic they weren't able to recover and be the person that they were before then. Some people have so much confidence in themselves, so much faith, and really have like high hopes for their life, have dreams ahead of them, when they're faced with enough failure, they start to doubt themselves and they start to settle for less than what they had set out to. Suddenly they're like, well, I'll just I'll just go be a dentist. Like, I think I just want to be a dentist. Like, I don't care if I can, be a music artist, or I don't care if I can be a pianist, or, I don't mind if I fulfill my dreams or not anymore. Like, they taste that failure and it's bitter. And some people who had the potential to keep going if they were persistent instead decide just to fall and go for what's more secure and the thing that will help you avoid failure. But it's like, no failure is final, like that's one of the beautiful things about life, is because we have free will, in most situations you can just pick yourself up and just try again and again. And maybe it'll be disastrous for you in some ways, maybe it'll cost you money and time and friendships, but it's like, and there's always going to be a sacrifice when you decide to start again. But we do have the option to start again, we do have that capability to just begin after we failed a million times, because no failure is final, I mean, nothing short of, being in an accident and dying or something is going to be the ultimate failure, because obviously, if you're not alive, you can't exactly continue with anything. But anything short of that, like, there are options. There is a way to just keep moving forward. And I think that, persistence is what's actually going to get you there. Persistence is what's actually going to drive you up that hill, push that boulder. It's like, maybe motivation will help you to start. Maybe motivation will help you to commit to something like that because you want to push this boulder up to the top of that hill. But every time you slide back down, every time you lose your footing and lose progress and are lower down than you were before, it's like, persistence is what's going to get you up there. Persistence is what's going to really fulfill you and make it happen. Okay, this spider is literally like, what? He has like potion effects on him. What the heck is that? I've never seen this. Is that a Java thing? I usually play Bedrock, so I don't even know. Wow, that's weird. Well, anyway, got a lot of terraforming done. Base looking a lot nicer. We're going to build on the mainland here where I'm killing these mobs. I think I'm going to build a windmill or a library. I'm not sure yet. Need to get an enchanting table set up, so I'll probably build a library. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys.